Hello and welcome. Just getting the last little things set up here, and then we'll be good to go. Landscaping Q&A. Okay, let's definitely change the title of that. Hi, James. Okay. We see on stream here. Okay, perfect. Streaming bitrate is very low for some reason. Sec. Fix that. It's been a while since I did a stream, so bear with me. Okay, there we go. Bitrate fixed. And I'm just gonna quickly just tweet out the stream and then we'll be good to go. So today we are gonna take a look at a small preview because it could be more of a complete preview of the lighting scenes that we've been working on for a while. Ta-da. Okay, here we go. Hello and welcome to the stream. Whoops. So, and also, I'll add this to the title. Let's just do plus Q&A because that's always, I feel like every time either of us or both of us, we do a stream, there's always inevitably going to be a lot of questions, whether it's, about if we're sculpting or now showing off the lighting scene or just career stuff in general. Those things tend to come up. So I'll just add Q&A to the title as well. Hello, Benjamin, and welcome. So, to start from scratch here. So, this is not the base. Start from here. This is gonna be a preview of the lighting scene for Blender. This is something I've been working on for quite a while now, and I don't even remember. We've done 2 iterations of the FlippedNormals lighting scenes, and the first one came out a long time ago. I don't even know, 8 years, maybe something like that. And then we followed that up with an update, and we did more software as well. So we had for Blender, someone recreated it for Blender for us, but we had for V-Ray, for Modo as well, Arnold, I believe. And a lot of things have happened, software-wise and skill-wise since then. And I wanted to kind of not recreate what we had specifically in Blender, but I wanted to build it from scratch because I don't know. I've learned a lot about lighting and color over the last many years, and I thought that it was time to update the whole thing. So what this is going to be is 20 scenes. So right here in your collections, you can see we have 20 different scenes. And here under my scene collection, I just have a bunch of models. Some of them are ours. Some of them have been given to us by other people to test with. And, we're really grateful for that. And we have some constraints to rotate around, some depth of field, light parent. I might get rid of that one. We'll see about that. And then there's going to be a couple of cameras here. Like right now, I'm rendering out some marketing images. So there are a couple extra cameras here that are specific to some characters where I needed to tweak things. But the scene is set up in a way so that you can import your character or props or asset, whatever it is. Scale it down so that it fits, within the confines of this little environment here. Scale it down, and then you'll have 3 cameras to pick from. And you'll have a close-up, you'll have sort of like a normal frame one, and then you have a low one for smaller characters or props. And obviously those cameras have been pre-set up with, the settings that I think you should use. There's some depth of field in, for example, the close-up one for portraits, and, less depth of field in the other ones because maybe you don't want to blur things, but you can always tweak that, of course. So there are 20 scenes, and each scene focuses on something different, so it's not just like there's a little tweak here and a little tweak there. They're all, I've created them and tried to make them unique but still usable. And the first thing you'll notice here is that there's like a little tag next to the name. And so out from 0-1, for example, it says R. R is for realistic. S is for stylized. And you'll have RS, which is realistic and stylized, so it can be used for both. PT is for portrait. So it's like this number 3, for example, it's good for realistic and stylized models with an emphasis on portraits, meaning that the light will be focused higher up here. So it's not, close to the ground. So you can get really close in to a portrait, and the light is well balanced. And then you'll have PP. I don't know, maybe I'll change that. But PP is short for prop. So there's portrait and prop. That's essentially what we're going for here. But let's just take a look at this with one of the models here. We'll do, let's do 0, 1 just for fun, and let's just do the sold boss. Hello. Nice to see you too. Yeah, that is a lot of light. So, it's just a quick little thing here. So ignore all the cameras here. Let's just make it a little bit easier for us to get an overview. So, each scene is built up around, you know, the basis of it is like a 3-point lighting setup, like the basis of everything, and then it's sort of expanded from there to tweak everything. The big thing that led me to want to actually do it in Blender now, like specifically in Blender, was the fact that light linking, you know, is out for Blender. I actually started this when it was just, was it like in the beta or something, I think? And then later they introduced the AGX update for the color space instead of filmic, and so I had to sort of readjust all the scenes. I think I was maybe 2/3 of the way through with creating this, and so sort of rebalanced everything to work with AGX and with light linking as well. And so the nice thing is, obviously you have control of all of the lights. Like all the lights, you have them here and you control them however you want. You know, it's really just a collection of scenes. And so obviously for some people, you can just import your character, your asset or whatever, plug it in and then render and you're good to go. But there's a lot of flexibility in this. So maybe, you know, if you have this guy here, let's take a better camera. That was that camera. Let's do that camera. There we go. So we have this camera here. Let's see here. Oop. Okay, so that camera's there. And then afterwards, you could go in and then play around with this and say, okay, you know, I want more your rim light. You know, everything's named as well, so it's hopefully easy to figure out. You can see the rim light here, how it affects his shoulder over here. Turn it off, say I don't want that, or maybe, you know, I want to double the strength, or want to increase the strength 10 times because I really want, you know, to focus on that rim over there. And then you can play around with it like that. I think where the strength of the lighting scene comes into play is the fact that you can iterate through a bunch of these so fast. So for example, 0, 1 here just has, it's just this. There's the base here and there's the light. And you something that I wanted to mention as well, all of them come with like a light controller in the center of the scene. So, you know, if you wanted to reposition something you don't think it quite fits, you can always rotate your lights around and look for an angle that you think might work better for your character. And like light linking has been absolutely essential to get this to work. Like things wouldn't have worked without it. And I think that's what we saw with the previous iteration of the lighting scenes for Blender, was that the Blender lighting scenes were it was the worst version of them because light linking didn't exist. So for the other pieces of software, Modo, and you know, in the beginning we also did Max. I don't think we did that for V2. But we could light link, meaning that this light up here, for example, this is a background light. And if you go into its light linking collection here, you can see that the scene, everything that's within this scene here is being excluded. So the hierarchy of where you put things is also important. So in the scene, this is where you put all your characters, and then you can parent them to the character parent, and then, you know, you'll get some rotation for free. Not that that's hard to set up, but, you know, I just wanted to make it as easy to use as possible. Anyway, this here is right now, it's set up to exclude everything that's in this, but include everything that's here. Or basically include everything but what is in the scene collection. If I turn this back on again, it'll light up everything in the scene only. And seeing as the background is not included in the scene, the background is no longer getting lit up. So this has been really powerful because it means that we can go in and tweak things very specifically to a scene and say, okay, we want to brighten up just the background here. We want to leave everything else the same. And so and now you can do that. Obviously, with light linking, you have to be a little bit careful because you don't want to blow things up so crazy that, you know, things start to look unrealistic. But hopefully, you know a little bit of what you're doing, but the lighting scenes will get you, I think, 90% of the way there. Okay, so then let's just have a look here. So iterations is something I just quickly wanted to go through. So let's see, you know, we're looking at this character and we're saying, yeah, cool, that's great, but it's not exactly the look I'm after. Not a problem. Just switch this off, turn on another. And here, there's a very different kind of scene, but also something you'll notice is that scene number 2 has 2 different backdrops. And some of the scenes will have 1, some will have 2, and there's one scene, I believe 19, that has 4 or 5. And these, the only purpose they really serve is color variation. So let me show you. The first one here is just a very light blue, and you know, let your imagination run wild with what this can be used for. It's really so acid dependent. The other one is a more saturated blue. And so what I've done is the scenes where I felt like you could use more options, I've gone and picked a color and then tweaked that color until I found something where the lights work with both of those colors. Sometimes it'll be a drastic change and sometimes it'll only be a saturation change, but you have that option. But just know that if you go on into a scene, you turn it on and you see this weird stuff happening on the ground, always remember to check the collection because there might be, you know, 2 backdrops in there. I did look at Eevee for a little bit, but honestly, the way that I work, the way that I light stuff has pretty much exclusively gone over to GPU based, you know, rendering. And it's so fast. Like it's stupid fast. So that's what I like about this and this setup is that I can get, you know, real GI, I can get nice shadows, I can get nice bounce, I can get, you know, proper AO. Everything in here, I can get depth of field. That's, you know, that looks in camera realistic. It doesn't have any clipping or anything. So this was very specifically made for cycles. I can't exclude that we would do an update that would look at Eevee next because it does look cool. You know, I think Eevee has come a long way over the last couple of years. So yeah, man, you know, I don't know. Right now, I'm just focused on just wrapping this up, to be honest. And then if we see something crazy happening with Eevee, yeah, we could make that happen. I also want to expand this to other applications as well. So Henning is he's gonna take this and convert it to, I think what we settled on was Arnold for Maya, and the conversion always sucks. We did the same thing with V2, and I mean we might want to try and find a better way to do this, but you know, very back then it was pretty simple. We just sort of exported out a version of like geometry based on a lighting plane, and then got that into a, whether it was Modo or whatever, and then made the light similar to that. It still takes tweaking because all render engines are different. You know, they don't treat light the same way. But yeah, so to begin with, it'll be a Blender exclusive scene, and then a little bit later it'll probably come out for Arnold Maya. Can this convert into Marmoset? Probably, but I don't know enough about Marmoset to do that. You know, I've done basic stuff in Marmoset, but I've never played around with it like this. So possibly, you know, if someone knows what they're doing, they could probably convert it to Marmoset. That is an interesting thought. But anyway, let's just go through some more here, and let's see. Okay, we get to number 3, and we say, okay, this is another one with 2 backdrops. We'll see. Okay, this one's a little bit different, but you can see it has a very strong level of saturation in the other background compared to the first one. But let's say, okay, cool, I like this one. Then what you do, you can take this, and then you can just render it out. Another option is that you could just render out a frame from each of these, right? Maybe do it at low resolution, or maybe you want to do a turntable from each of these. Automate that so you get 20 different scenes that spits out, or you know, 20 renders that are each very unique for a character like this, and then see, okay, this is what it looks like. Let's go with scene number 15, for example. Let's have a look at for this character, for example. I know that either scene number 6 or 7 would probably be a good fit. So 6 and 7 are both dark backdrops, and so like do this. They're very contrasty, dark, and fit well with a Dark Souls type character like this. This one doesn't work as well. So for, you know, my money would be on number 6, for example, for this. And I think one of the big differences from our previous lighting scenes to this one is that I've experimented a lot more with light intensity and with the softness and harshness of shadows, colors as well. So hopefully you'll find that there's more variation for this, and it doesn't look as soft as previous scenes have. But that being said, if you wanted to tweak any of that, it's super simple. Like, take this here, for example. You can see he has this pretty large drop shadow right here, and that comes from this tiny light right here. Right, it has, I don't know, 50 watts of intensity, but the smaller you make the light, the more intense the sharper the shadow gets, I should say. And so we can scale this up, and then we achieve that softer look without really sacrificing any of the contrast in the character. I mean, you will lose some, obviously, because a tighter shadow just gives you that contrasty look. If we scale it up, it becomes a little bit softer. But that's something you can do. So a lot of options there. Let's have a look at another character. One of my favorite ones that we got to borrow. This is Jen, I don't know, from Danny Mac. And let's have here. Scene number 8, I think, is a good fit for her, right? Yeah, scene number 8 is good for her. And so this scene here is exclusively made as a stylized scene. But it doesn't mean that you can't use it for realistic stuff. I just found that it works really well with stylized assets and characters. But, you know, when I look at this, and if we hide the character, you know, I look at this and immediately I start thinking about this could be like the backdrop for a chocolate commercial. You know, those classic close-up commercials where you have chocolate flowing down into, like, I don't know, on top of an ice cream or something like that. It's just a rough guide of what I found to work the best in any given scene. Doesn't mean you have to use it, but as a guideline, that's typically what'll work. I don't know. Let's see. Anything else I can say about this scene? I don't think so. Let's have a look at another to see one where, you know, this is what I think is interesting about this, is that sometimes you can find a scene for a particular asset character in this case where you're like, okay, cool, that just fits. And sometimes you find the exact opposite. So this one, no. This one, nope. Maybe 15. Yeah. Yeah, this one, for example. So this would be a terrible fit, obviously, for this character. But this works really well for hard surface types of props. It's actually tagged as obviously realistic, but also portrait and prop. And so let's just quickly have a look at that. So the prop that I want to show off here is going to be, is it the engine? Bear with me. This one takes a while to load. I'm afraid I don't have the name of the guy who supplied it. It's been a long time. I started this a while ago, so but thank you to that guy. A lighting scene for Unreal 5 would be awesome as well. Yeah, that's true. That is true. But that, yeah, that would be a totally different product. I'm just wondering if like you could do that if you did it with Eevee in Blender, but obviously everything's set up in Unreal and you would have to reset up stuff in Blender. Yeah, I think the stream is probably lagging because it's we're trying to load the this massive model right here. It should be good now. Everything should be loaded. And so, okay, so this engine, very cool asset, I think. Crazy detail, and really happy we actually got to play around with this. And so I'm just gonna change the camera here. We're gonna change it to low. So this one here, I think works well. Because it's a pretty high contrast type of setup as well. Not really suited. Probably not really suited for full-length characters. You could try and see, you know, some characters it actually might work for, maybe if they're more monochromatic. But then you have these light bars. I call them sabers, just for fun, lightsabers. That sort of, it doesn't wrap around, but it's just in the background. And so they serve two purposes. One is they actually create more light in the scene, but more, I think, something that's more interesting is that they actually add reflections to the model. And so they create a little bit of, I think, cool visual contrast in the scene. So it's not just this, but, you know, as with everything else, you can just turn it off and then you don't have to worry about it, you know. So maybe you like the light in the scene, but you don't like the way that the sabers look. You could tilt them a little bit if you wanted something a little bit different. You could rotate them around. Maybe want to get more depth on that. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of options. While we're on that scene, actually just have a look at portrait as well. Let's see. Okay, and then we'll change the camera. Maybe someone knows, but I would like there to be a better way to switch cameras. I was actually looking into maybe writing like a little add-on that sort of came with the lighting scenes so you could easily switch cameras or something. But I don't know. It seemed like maybe it was like, yeah, a little over the top because it doesn't take that much to actually change the cameras. But, you know, you never know. I've moved the characters and everything a little bit in the scene, so things might not line up exactly. Take this camera here. Then we'll just move it. Okay, so this one's here. It's a different kind of portrait, that's for sure. But I still think with the sabers in the background and the type of light it is it's a different one. But it adds some nice visual contrast to portraits. It's definitely not a type of setup that works for all characters, and you kind of have to be going for a specific look. But again, you can tweak this if you find something that you like here. I think that's the power in it. But let's actually go to maybe something that works well for this particular character. Now what would that be? Actually, the other saber specific ones are, I think, good for this character here. You know, something like that. So this is more balanced, not as high contrast. Um, Definitely a Sith type of feel, but maybe you have a character with horns, so that might actually work. Do I have anything else for portraits we could look at here? I guess we could take a look at Thanos, maybe. What does he sit in frame? So he's there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this scene works that well for Thanos, actually. Let's see, maybe this scene, this scene might actually do better. But as a portrait thing, he's not really close up. Not like the demon lady. Actually, oh right, yeah, we have Henning head here, which isn't Henning's head, but it's from our masterclass that we released some time ago now. Oh, and just something I quickly wanted to mention as well is that we're currently having our yearly summer sale with up to 70% off of some products. There's almost 40,000 products on sale on the marketplace right now. So if there's anything on there you've sort of had on your mental wish list, because we still don't have a wish list feature, I would highly recommend that you go over there and check it out. It would really help us. It would really help us out. Anyway, here we have Henning Head, as it's aptly named. I can't remember if he does have a name for this character. He probably does, but for now we'll just call it Henning Head. Let's. I know there's a scene. I played around with this. I know there's a scene here that works really well for this guy. Not this one. Well, this one does actually work for him. This one is an interesting scene, scene 16. I've tagged it as realistic stylized, and then for portrait and props. And I think it gives off a game engine type of look. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just the mix of colors and the contrast and the lighting. But I feel like it has that game engine look to it. Let's see here. Was it this one? I think this one does actually work really well. Especially it's very neutral in a way. Let's just get him over to the other side here. The nice thing about having really high res models is that it makes everything you do look better. um, but I will also say I think the way that the lighting scenes have been balanced, it's a lot easier to make your characters look even better with a lot less input. I don't know how many hours I've spent on this scene. It's or like on all of the scenes combined. It's a lot, and rebalancing things and tweaking things just takes a long time, especially when you want to make something that's usable for most people, but also customizable, easily customizable enough so that everyone can sort of fit it to their needs. I think there's one scene that's actually I don't remember what it is. There's another scene I found which is better for this guy. This scene here is kind of like a faux outdoor scene. So you can see the light here is extremely tiny. And that's to simulate the sun, essentially. And I don't know, I changed it to disk as well instead of rectangle, just for more of a sunlight type of effect. And you know, it has maybe that more. It's more like a studio sunlight effect, but with those really really harsh shadows. That's also not the scene I was looking for. Actually, that one works pretty well with him as well. Here, I don't know. I think this guy actually works with a lot of different scenes. Not this one. Oh no, this one as well. This kind of I don't know, has this sort of autobiography, portrait photo type of feel, and then you could take that and let's actually go in and play around with this. So we have, and that's something you could do with AGX as well. Now that it's optimized for it, you couldn't before, but because it's AGX and not filmic anymore, you go in and say, okay, grayscale. There we go. So instantly, autobiography of an angry man with horns, which I think looks pretty cool. I don't know. Yeah, I think there's something to it here. But this is the power of it, right? I think you get that now. This is something that I never really. I don't do it a lot. I sometimes play around with it a little bit, but not a lot because usually I'll do things in comp afterwards. But the looks that you have in AGX now, so like for some of these scenes, maybe you find them lacking in contrast, which is intentional because it leaves room for compositing afterwards. But maybe you want to do everything, in Blender, and maybe you don't want to comp really. You could always go in and say medium high contrast or something. I think the medium high contrast and base contrast work well. I guess base contrast doesn't. I don't know. I can't see any difference. Let's just stick to medium high contrast. This one I think will work for most scenes as it just pushes it to that, just makes the blacks a little bit darker, just closer to black instead of a little bit off black. So that's something you can consider when using that. But most of the time, I'll just render out an EXR with no look applied because it gives me more freedom in comp afterwards. Now, I really wanted to find, this is a good one as well. This is kind of like a, it's funny. We had, in V2, we had a similarly looking scene. But after going back and looking at this is more optimized for portraits. I felt like it was better suited for portraits, actually. And I like that distinction in this new iteration of the lighting scenes compared to V2, was that in V2, everything was sort of focused on full frame renders of full characters, full props, everything. And so the portrait part was kind of lacking in the previous iterations, I feel like, because it's also hard to get nice portraits when you have only soft lights. When they're, obviously you could go in there as well and change things. But I remember with V-Ray, I believe, changing the scale of lights would like mess with the intensity too much as well. Whereas I don't know how Blender does it, but it kind of works. And so scaling your scene light it seems to be fine for the most part. So let's see here. Just want to go back to scene number 8 here. And then we'll do this one. That one? Yeah, we'll do this one. And then we'll find Yen once again. Look here. Just to show you the power of light linking. Oops. There we go. So this scene here, very vibrant, saturated colors. Looks great, in my opinion. This light here is, again, specifically a background light. And so it only affects everything but what's in the scene collection. I think that's the best way to phrase it. If I did the other way around, it would affect everything else, and now it just looks like crap. And so I think this is why light linking is so important, not just with this scene in particular, but just in general, and why it's been really frustrating for a long time that Blender didn't have it, because it meant that it was really hard to art direct some things. And that goes beyond just like lighting something that's stylized, because you would do that in production as well with realistic scenes. You always need a little bit of extra light here, and maybe you want to add a highlight to the eyes or whatever it is. Maybe a little bit of rim light that doesn't quite make sense realistically, but who cares if it makes sense realistically as long as it looks good, right? So that was the whole focus, and once I saw that was coming for Blender, that was kind of the whole like thing that kickstarted, maybe we should actually make a new lighting scene specifically for Blender. Let's take this and just so obviously, like before, if we don't have it, it looks like this. But what you can do as well is you can take these lights and you can like scale them up or down in either direction. So you could maybe make this a little more round, and maybe you want to change the focal point of it, right? So you could change it more to be closer to the face, soften things out, and then rotate a little bit to have more contrast on the floor, less contrast on the floor. There's a lot of possibilities. And the nice thing about light linking in this case is that, whoops, we rotate it around here. It still only affects the background. It does affect shadows, but you can also do shadow linking and sort of try to mitigate that a little bit. But a lot of options when it comes to customizing the scenes for your needs. Panda has a question. Should I focus on learning sculpting or learning the program itself? Without knowing anything more, it sounds like you're obviously into sculpting. And the tricky thing here is that what we always recommend is that, ZBrush is the best sculpting app out there. Nothing really comes close to it. There's obviously like Nomad Sculpt for the iPad, and then there's some talks of like ZBrush for the iPad as well. But I don't know when that's going to come out. But in the beginning, you kind of have to do both a little bit. You have to know enough about the software to be able to sculpt, but then also know enough about sculpting to actually, do it. My recommendation would be to just get a quick guide, especially if you're just getting started and you don't know how serious you want to take this. There's plenty of free stuff. We have free intros on YouTube that you can just check out, and if you like that, you could always go more in depth with a full introduction. Again, something that we have, but that's paid on FlippedNormals.com, and then take it from there. In the beginning, they kind of go hand in hand, because without one or the other, it's kind of tricky. I guess that's the best answer I can give. Is this lighting scene going to be on sale? It's going to be for sale, and sure, it'll be on sale whenever we do have sales. But right now, I'm still wrapping things up. I'm doing the marketing at the moment. Let me see if I can find some stuff here. You know what? Let me just. Do I have DaVinci? I don't have DaVinci installed here. Damn it. I will just find the turntables instead. Da-da-da. Okay. Yeah, I'll show you some of these turntables. So, boom. One sec, I'm just loading up DJV so we can preview these DXRs. DJV, there we go. Okay. That's nice. Okay, so can you drag and drop one frame? Yeah, you can. That's cool. So this here is actually a armor piece, or it's like the armor from a character by Ryan Reyes, where I I just sort of took them all and piled them into a pile. So we had some armor props. I don't know when the Arnold version is gonna come after this. I mean, I'm hoping. So right now the summer sale is going, so there's not a lot of time for other stuff. But once the summer sale is done, I only need to render a couple more scenes for marketing, and then we should be good. And then I'll start working on the trailer, and then packaging everything up for this. Got that, and here's a cool one. So here's Bulbasaur. So just to show you how it sort of works with stylized characters. What else we have? Ah, yes. We have the demon lady. So this is the scene you saw before. Man, I wish I had DaVinci installed here, because I kind of wanted to show you the composited versions. I think they come out of the lighting scenes looking good, but it's like with anything else, you know, you can add 10, 20, 30% extra with a little bit of comp, a little bit of contrast, maybe boosting the colors. But this one, definitely some glow on the lightsabers here, but still, you know, you get the gist. That's what that looks like. The engine we took a look at. A look at the head. Okay, so I chose the gaming background, or the gaming lighting scene to light this with, which I think works really well. There's some nice contrast in there, and you really focus on his face instead of the background. What else do we have? That's fun. Oh yeah, Majora. This is from an old course we did, right? Stylized character sculpting in a ZBrush, which is also for sale. 40% off right now on FlippedNormals.com. I remember this was terrible to light when I first did it, you know, years ago, because light linking didn't exist, and I wanted like some very specific type of lighting that I just couldn't make back then. So I had to make all these invisible light blockers behind him, so I would get the light, the rim light, to fall in very specific parts of him. Nightmare. Blender is the only option. I don't want to buy a ZBrush, plus don't want to risk sketchy sites. I hear you. I hear you. So with Blender, you can definitely make good sculpts. That's, you know, without a doubt. You know, the last couple of years, Pedro, I think his name was, did a massive overhaul on sculpting in Blender. Oh. Oh. And so the tools are pretty good. They're not ZBrush level, but they're also free. All right. And so you can get really good at sculpting by using Blender. you you don't really have to learn that much in order to sculpt in Blender. And so just, pick up the basics, sculpting in Blender. I think we actually have, I think we might even have something for free on YouTube about sculpting in Blender. It's from version like 3-ish, I think. So, but not a lot has happened since then. Just get, familiar with the basics in terms of sculpting there, and then start picking up on sculpting content specific for sculpting. Something that we always recommend is anatomy. Anatomy is the backbone of everything you do sculpting wise, unless you sculpt hard surface. But if you sculpt a hard surface to be more organic, like I don't know, let's take the old like Crisis, for example, that game where you had that mech type of muscular suit. Obviously that's derived from anatomy, but it's still type of, it's still kind of hard surface. Oh, okay. So you're more asking specifically if you should learn all of Blender or more of Blender. It depends on your needs. I mean, it'll come along the way. If sculpting is what you're interested in, just focus on sculpting for now. The other stuff is something that you can look into if you find a need for it. Sure, it can be helpful to know a little bit about modeling if you need to tweak things in your model with modifiers and stuff like that, and maybe a little bit about rendering as well. But if sculpting is what you want to focus on right now, I would focus on that. If you spread yourself too thin, I you know you'll learn a little bit about everything, but you might not get the skills you want when it actually comes to sculpting. I hope that answers the question. Learn over time. Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, the reality of Blender is it's a massive piece of software. You could do so many things in there, right? You can model, you can you can texture ish, you can sculpt, you can composite, you can render, you can light. It's 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 really starting to become a full-fledged piece of software. But I mean, there's a lot of things I don't know how to do in there. With FlippedNormals and everything. I used to be a modeler professionally. Yeah, texture ish. I used to be a modeler professionally. So, modeling and sculpting creatures, characters, that sort of stuff. I'm terrible at modeling in Blender because it was never something that I needed by the time I started using Blender. There are some incredible modeling tools for Blender for sure. And I'm sort of caught up with the basics of modeling in Blender, but at this point I still don't really, it's not that I sit down every day and do modeling. If I needed to go back to a studio or whatever, I would definitely do like an intensive course of like, okay, now I'm just going to focus on modeling, get up to date with all the tools, everything I need to know, but then I would do that. Um, Otherwise, I think you might run into an issue where you waste a lot of time on things you might never use. Let's have a look here. I'm just slowly going through these renders. So this is what you saw before, actually, which was scene number 6, I believe, for the Dark Souls inspired character. This is also from a course. This is our ZBrush. Oh, what's it called? I can't remember. It's something Dark Souls inspired character course, fully in ZBrush, something something. Um, Stefan says, I remember the Skull Kid sculpting course was my very first venture into the world of sculpting. Looking at it now, years later, it's quite nostalgic. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm I'm happy that was your first. And I hope you enjoyed it. So it was a lot of fun to make, challenging to make, but a lot of fun. You know, we've made a lot of courses over the years. I think right now, not just courses, but I think in total, we have over 100 products on the FlippedNormals store on FlippedNormals.com. Everything from different tutorials, environment, characters, and stuff to our asset type packs, the skin kit, the base kit, the lighting scenes, and something that's really interesting is stories like yours, Stefan, where it's like, that's many years ago now, and you got something out of it, and now you are where you are, which is always cool to see. Well, you're welcome. It was a guess, It could have been Steven. But I don't know. There were some not so English looking characters in your last name, so I just went for it. I think I have around maybe like 15 minutes left or something like that. Because then I actually need to go grab some lunch. But all right, so where were we? Spartan Character by Ryan Reyes. Also on sale right now. I think Ryan has 30% off on his entire store, maybe. But this was a really cool model, and this was one that was sort of, well, Ryan makes really cool characters, but Ryan also makes very sexy characters. That's the thing, right? And I think they're all like made for Blender to be used with Blender. And let's just say, his models have a very specific purpose, if you know what I'm saying. So some of them I feel like weren't quite. I didn't want to sell the lighting scene with boobs, but I still wanted something cool and something high quality. And I think the Spartan is the perfect mix there. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's packing something underneath that, but we can turn on his armor, so all is well. But I think this was a really cool character to show off because it is a game character actually, and so it could be interesting testing out that EV next with it if we ever did like a variation on that. But it's a cool character, and get to play around with something that's got a lot of different types of things going on: some skins, some armor, metal, leather. What else do we have? We have one more, which is Thanos here. So one thing that you might notice is that these are just the pure EXR files, and so when they are displayed in DJV, I actually don't know if you can. Maybe you can load in LUTs or something. Maybe. Can you? I don't know. Probably, but I don't know how to. So this is quite burned out, and so I just want to show you. So this, we'll get back to this, but I just want to show the comparison in Blender. So where are we? This, okay, that's hidden. Cool. Let's just get rid of that background, and we'll find Thanos again. And it's just a DJV issue, I think. In DaVinci, when I load in my EXRs and set up my LUTs, everything looks fine. You wouldn't have that issue if you just rendered out as like a PNG or something. So Thanos new. I'm afraid I don't render in Unreal 5, so I can't really help you there. I'm sorry. I'm not a game engine person. It is something that we talked about though, actually adding that to our skill set, because it feels like that's where a lot of entertainment is moving towards, gaming. But traditionally, we're focused on VFX and film. So right now, I don't have an answer for you. Mr. J says, please do a sale on trim sheets and decals. They should be on sale. Our entire store. is actually on sale. So 1 sec, let me just double check. Now, what lighting scene was this? That's this one? This one? It wasn't that one. It could be number 9. It's definitely not number 9. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's gonna be tricky because I'm working in a scene where I've actually changed things compared to the base scene. So I might not actually be able to find it. Probably not. Probably not. Yeah, that's gonna be a no. Just trust me on that. It's not overblown in the actual renders. Now, one quick thing I just wanted to double check here. Trim sheets for games artists, definitely on sale. And decals one, definitely on sale as well. Yeah, I mean, just, yeah, head over to FlippedNormals.com. Yeah, I mean, most things are on sale on the website right now. I think, you know, like I mentioned earlier, we're close to 40,000 products being on sale. So there's a lot to pick from. Most things are on sale. Bad Brian, yeah. Yeah, I actually have to get going now. Thank you for stopping by for this little preview of the upcoming lighting scene for Blender. Be sure to keep you all posted when it comes out. And if you want to get updated on that, just make sure you follow us on all of the social medias, I guess. Sign up for our newsletter. It'll definitely be in there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And maybe I'll join a stream, I think on Thursday. I think Henning is going to be streaming there. And we'll see if we can't double team that one. This was a lot of fun, and see you guys later. Bye.